every Tuesday and Thursday, the next 2 weeks, we'll have dialogues. The word dialogue, I looked it up in the dictionary, means putting our thoughts into words. And a dialogue between friends, and I hope this is that way, implies that there are no arguments, no assertions, that two friends are talking over together their problems, amicably, frankly, and easily, because they're friends. So perhaps we could approach these dialogues that way. That is, we could ask a question and go into it very, very deeply, patiently, and see the whole implications of those questions. And so, what shall we talk about this morning together?
I wonder if we might talk about mysticism and whether or not there actually is mysticism, or is mysticism inevitably an escape?
Mysticism. Could you talk about mysticism? Anything else?
Yes. I have a problem which I have been exploring for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it is this: to see the false as false, to see the true as true, and to see the truth in the false. It is this that sets the mind free.
That's your question, is it, sir?
Yeah, I don't understand it. This is what
All right, we'll go into that. Anything else?
We talk perhaps, is there such a thing as sacred or timeless art, or is all art conditioned?
Is there something as sacred, unconditioned, not touched by thought? Is that it, sir?
Yes. I'm asking a question, not about the nature or the meaning of belief in traditional religions, because observation or mere reason shows that it creates duality and strengthens the self. Instead, I'm asking, why did the call to believe arise in these religions in the first place?
I would like to talk about reality, the nature of it.
Would you like to talk about reality?
Yes.
In your writings, you refer to the beloved. What is this beloved? And
He
what is
said.
your
All right, sir. Look, it is not what I write and what I think. What is your questions, not my questions. Don't say, well, you have written this, and what do you mean by that? Could we honestly, simply and easily talk about what we are concerned, each one is concerned?
How can I bring about this inward psychological revolution?
How is it possible to bring about psychological revolution?
How can I be emptied of my content?
Beg pardon?
How can I be emptied of my content?
Of my content of consciousness.
Content of one's consciousness. Now, just a minute, that's enough questions. Let's see. Now, what shall we take among all these questions?
The revolution.
Shall we take the question, if you are really concerned, not what somebody has said, but your own problem, you understand, sir? Your own concern about what is truth, why religions have so separated themselves and we are caught in it. What do you mean by the false and the true? Could one talk about the unconditioned? Is there such thing as the unconditioned, sacred, untouched by thought? And is it possible to really bring about transformation in oneself? These are all the various questions, more or less, that have been put to each other. So which shall we take first? What's up?
About those questions. What does it mean to be serious?
What does it mean to be serious? I don't know. I do know for oneself, when one is very, very serious for oneself. But I don't know what you mean by being serious. You may translate it in so many ways that in seriousness there is no humor, no laughter. Seriousness committed to a particular ideology, and also one can be quite serious neurotically, and so on, so on. I think we generally mean by seriousness that one is really concerned, deeply concerned with something that we want to solve, we want to understand or go into. I'd like to go into the question of fear.
Could you please say something about the relationship of individuality to consciousness? I think there's a lot of confusion about where individuality fits in. If I am consciousness and all the contents are me, then where does individuality fit in?
Now, I don't know how many questions to ask, all these questions, how is one to answer all the various questions. Perhaps we could take one question amongst all this, which might cover the whole field.
Could it be reality and truth, the relationships that might cover?
I'm afraid it wouldn't. That's too an abstract subject.
How does one start to transform oneself?
How does one start? May we start with that question? Would that be all right with all of you? How does one start to bring about a radical, deep psychological revolution? That's the question in itself. And I should go into this question rather carefully. First of all, we have to understand what do we mean by change. Change from this to that, right? We generally mean that. Change from what one is into what one should be. Is that change at all? You follow my question? I want to change from what I am with my greed and all the rest of it, and change that into something much better. Right? Right, sirs? This is a dialogue. Please, I'm not talking by my... So please. And when there is such change, is it really a transformation? Or is it merely a reaction? Or is it a premeditated, desired end to which you want to change? You understand? And is transformation, inward psychological revolution, is that totally different from change? You understand my question? Please, let's talk over as two friends, please. You understand? Wait a minute, sir, wait a minute, let me finish. There is capitalism and communism. The communism is change from capitalism. At least they think so, but more or less coming along, more or less all political things are becoming the same, more or less. Is that change? They talk a great deal about revolution, outward revolution. And is that revolution based on a change which is preconceived? You understand? And therefore conforming to a pattern already established. And therefore it's not radical change. I wonder if I'm making myself clear.
They seem two forms, communism and capitalism, of the same conflict.
No. Forgive me if you don't forget capitalism and communism. I want to change from greed to non-greed. The non-greed is already established in my mind. Is already put into words. There's a pattern to which I am conforming. Or I will conform when there is change.
It's an idea.
No, just not. Please go. Don't go. Go slowly, please. First, I want us and be clear that the difference between change and transformation, a mutation, if you want to use that word. Change implies changing what is into what should be. Right? Into what should be is already established by thought, by environment, by circumstances, by pressures, and so on, so on. It's already established. And when I change, I am changing from what is into what should be, which is conceived. Therefore, I say to myself, that's not change at all. Right? It is still pursuing the same pattern, only in a different field. So, I see that very clearly. I hope you do too. I see that fact, that change implies a continuity of what is modified. Right? Whereas transformation is something entirely different. The ending of what is, not what should be. Am I right? This is a discussion between two friends. I'm not being logistic or reasoned and all the rest of it. Do we, as two friends, please, I really mean it, as two friends, see this? The difference between change and total ending of something.
Are you saying that change is like sort of totally non-directional? In other words, like when someone when
That's right. That's right. One is directional, the other is non-directional. But sir, just get it in what it means. Because we have operated, our mind is always directional. Whereas we are saying the ending is non-directional. And therefore it is something tremendous and not limited.
Very clearly intellectually.
Oh, sir?
We see very clearly intellectually that all ways to change lead to no change at all, to no transformation. How is it that we don't feel it inside?
We're going to go into that just a minute. If we see clearly the meaning of these two verbally, even verbally or intellectually, that is, change implies continuity of what is modified, directional, and transformation, mutation, total psychological revolution. It has no direction, is not modified, it is the ending of something. Right? Is this clear? I mean, verbally at least.
Isn't it legitimate to assume, though, that if someone is in a situation where they want to, say, move out of where they are, like someone who's standing in the middle of, on the planet, and he wants to go somewhere, he has to seemingly, at least at some point, have some sense of direction, because
Wait, don't particularize yet. We're going slowly. First, let's understand this. Really, very pleased to understand this psychologically is more important than merely verbal understanding of it. The better is the evil. The whole mentality of our whole mentality is becoming better. The better is directional. The better is modification of what is into what should be. It's all directional, preconceived, modified. Whereas the other is a total ending of what is. Now that is clear. Now which is it you, please, as a human being, are want or demand or seeking? Sociologically, economically, psychologically.
Prayer for something and meditation to listen.
Oh. Prayer and meditation, we're not quite discussing that, so if you don't mind. Now, which is it as a human being, actually not theoretically, is caught up in? A directional movement or the ending of that directional movement? You understand my question, sir?
One get caught in the directional movement.
You don't understand my question? So, when you have a look, you're looking at a map, map of America or Europe or India, map. And if you have a direction from this place, Ojai to Nebraska, whatever that is, you have a direction, right? So, when you are concerned with the direction, you don't see the whole map. But we are trying to see the whole map, not direction. Right? Is that all right? God. So, now which is it, as a human being, you are caught in?
I feel that when I'm caught in that situation, I'm very scared.
No, madam.
We're always seeking temporary
Because
solutions.
we're always
No, I'm asking, please don't go off to something else. We are asking each other as two friends. I'm not sitting on a platform, we're walking together or sitting under a tree, and we are asking, which is it you as a human being actually are caught in? Directional or non-directional? Huh? What? I can't hear.
Always seeking a temporary direction.
Directional, isn't it? Now, if it is directional, you are aware that you are caught in a directional movement, how do you end that movement? That's all the question. Not how to transform that movement into something else. You understand my question? I am going north. I'm rather south. I'm going south. And I really want to go north, so I turn around and go. You see the difference? I break the movement of going towards the south and turn and go north. But I must know, be aware by the sun or by the compass that I'm going south. Now, if we agree or if we see actually that you are caught in a direction, in modified continuity of what is, and then I'm asking, how do you end that?
As soon as there's a way to do it.
All right. How does it? Is it possible? Put it not the how, the method, the system. Is it possible to end that?
Become objective.
What?
Stand back and become objective. Step out of the circle and look at this circle.
I can't quite hear that.
Step out of the circle. Become more objective and look at this circle.
Are you doing it? No, you can't try. Compass says go south, and you really want to go north. And you don't say, I will try and turn around and go north. You turn around and go north.
Sir, but when you use words like tremendous and revolution, we project the idea of a tremendous...
Sir, that's what I'm asking, sir. Please listen quietly, sir. As two friends, are you aware that you are caught in a directional movement? And if you are aware of it, is it possible to end that directional movement? It's a very simple question. The complication comes a little later.
Stop making comparisons.
What's that?
Stop making comparisons.
I don't quite follow. I am going, sir, please. I realize that I am caught in a directional movement, which is modified, the continuity of what is modified, that is directional. Am I aware I am doing this? I am violent, I should not be non-violent. I am greedy, non-greedy. I am this and that. And all that is a modified continuity of what is, right? Is that clear? If that is clear, then I'm asking myself, can that end? That is the change. That is transformation. Not transformation of what is into something else. Huh? Very, sir. No, stick to this one question, sir.
The mind can't answer it because having never not been going in a direction, it seems impossible to tell its possible not to go in a direction from memory.
All right, sir. You're saying our memory, our brain is so conditioned that it's always moving in a direction. Which means what?
It means we are always trying to be somewhere other than.
No, which means our brain is conditioned generations after generation to go in a direction, right? Have you observed it? Have you observed your brain? Your whole process of thinking is directional. Directional, either lateral or vertical, horizontal or vertical. It's always a direction, right? Are you aware of that?
Is the non-directional a fixed point?
Oh, sir?
Is the non-directional a fixed point?
Is it because we are talking about it and therefore temporarily it is non-directional? What is temporary is not actual. Right?
Doesn't it all cease when there is no longer someone who wants anything to change, anything to be different?
Madam, that comes a little later. But we proceed, we're already ahead when we have stated that. When we have not actually realized the directional movement, which is modified continuity of what is, and can that end? That's all I'm asking. Actually, not intellectually, not verbally, and say, yes, that's finished. And wait, and see the implications when you say it's finished.
How can I see? I move in a direction.
Don't you, madam, don't you want to be better? To be, if you are fragmented, don't you want to be integrated? Don't you want fear to end? That's a direction.
The looking at the fear and the attachment.
Don't take fear as an example, please. So difficult.
Sir, aren't you saying that it's not bad to be non-directional? You should be directional, but know what your direction is.
No. We're not saying that. To know your direction, how do you know? When you use the word know, what do you mean with the word know?
You see the whole map.
No. Yes, sir. You've used the word know. What do you mean by that? By that word. No, please, 2 minutes. When you use the word know, what is implied? What is the significance? What is the meaning of that word to know? Huh? I know you because I met you yesterday, right? You were introduced to me, and I say, yes, I know you, which is what?
Recognize.
To recognize. How does that recognition process take place? Which is what? Your name, you were introduced to me yesterday, your name is registered in the brain, therefore it's memory. Therefore it's already known. Right? So when I say I know, you are already, you're speaking from the past. Oh, you don't see the complications of all this. All right. So we're asking, is it possible to end the directional movement. Not have a new direction, but have no direction at all. Because to have a new direction is another modified continuity, right? I wonder if you...
So we don't know the answer to the question because we're driving, or I'm driving in a car, and I've never stopped. I've always been going, and I don't know how to stop.
So you've always been going in a particular direction, and you don't know how to stop. Let us take that. You have always gone along a particular road, directional, and you really don't know how to stop. Can we start from there? Now, what is the impetus that makes you want to stop? What is the motive? No, please, don't.
See, you're going the wrong way. The fact that I've crashed into one horrible thing in life against another makes me begin to see.
So, your motive is the horror, or you have seen the results of direction. Is that so, or is it a conclusion? You see the difference? I can conclude it is a wrong direction. I can think it is a wrong, but I may want another direction.
Stop the one you're on. Before you go in another direction, you have to stop the one you're on.
All right, before you go into any other direction, you have to stop. What makes you stop, sir?
Crisis in consciousness.
No, please don't crisis in consciousness. Madam, do you know what that means? Crisis means a challenge. It's such a great challenge, and your response must be equal to that challenge. This is what is going on now. So I'm asking, when you say, can you stop moving in a certain direction? And I'm asking, what makes you stop? What is the motive? What is the urge, the desire, the necessity?
I see I'm getting nowhere.
The direction is hazardous.
You crash into the wall of reality. Seeing my desires did nothing for me.
So, when you crash into reality and you say, I get nothing from it, so your motive is reward and punishment. Be simple about it. Your reward is punishment and reward. That is directional. That is what we are brought up on from childhood. Modern psychologists, I don't read their books, but I have friends who talk about it, who have come see me and we discuss it. They are saying we've always punished people. Now let us do the other, reward people, which is the same thing. So do you want to stop because you want a reward?
Because of discontentment.
Do you want a reward? And therefore you stop? Or you are frightened of punishment and therefore you stop? Come on.
Stop because you're aware.
You stop because you are aware.
You stop because you are aware. Now please, what do you mean by being aware? I'm not being facetious. I want to understand each word that you use so that you and I both are on the same level. I may have a different meaning to that word, and you may have a different meaning to that word. So what do you mean by being aware?
One sees the futility of making effort.
Do you see that actually? That means you no longer make effort of any kind. You see that?
You realize that the thinker is fabricating the whole sense of directional living.
I agree, madam. I agree, but when you say I am aware of that fact, what do you mean by aware, we are asking? When you see thought, or when you realize the whole fabrication is brought about by thought, are you aware of it? And what do you mean by that word aware?
You see it clearly.
Now, when you use, I'm sorry, I'm going to push this point if you don't mind. When you see, what do you mean by seeing?
Understanding.
What do you mean by understanding? Go, madam, this is understanding how? Intellectually?
No.
Therefore, what do you mean by that?
It's sort of like a dawning.
No, all right, it dawns upon you, which means what? Go into it. Don't stop.
I see the difference between being the thinker and fabricating an illusory sense of things and being the wholeness that is the very living that life is. Right now, everything.
Which means what? That you have an insight. You see the actuality of the falseness of moving in a certain direction. You are aware of the total implications of moving in a certain direction. You've grasped it, you've got it, it is in your blood. So you don't go back ever again in any direction. You see, that's what I want to prevent. Being, you've already.
Scratch that word,
please. Just let you see her point, sir, what she's saying. The lady there says, I see it. Either one sees it verbally, intellectually, and therefore it's not actual seeing. And when you say I see, she meant I understand. When you say I understand, what do you mean by that word? Understand what is explained. I understand verbally, intellectually, grasp the meaning of words, and I understand that. She said, no, I don't mean that. I said, have you really grasped the falseness of direction? That it leads nowhere. Do you actually, as you perceive that tree, is it as actual, as real as that? Therefore, you will never knock against that tree again. So, when you use the word direction, when you use the word I understand, it means you have finished altogether moving in a modified continuity, in a direction, which means that you have ended it. Now, is that a fact? Please, if it is a fact, what has taken place in daily life? What has taken place in the movement of the brain? You understand? Because our brain is conditioned centuries and centuries, generations after generation of millennia, to move from this to that. Right? improve oneself, change oneself, become oneself, identify yourself, fulfill yourself, be yourself. If you cannot, then achieve God. Move always in a direction. Now, when you see that direction is false, is there the brain free of that movement? You follow it? Or it's merely superficial capture of the meaning. I wonder if I'm making myself clear.
Stop.
You understand? Which means, go slowly, Ali, which means the brain has broken away from the conditioning, past conditioning. So it will never function in that direction at all. Because it has captured the danger of it. Because the brain demands security. I won't go into all that for the moment. The brain demands security. And it thought it found security in a directional movement. You're following this? You're following it, madam? And the brain sees the danger of it, therefore says, I can't go in that direction. So the brain itself has understood the movement, the danger, not merely a verbal understanding. I wonder if, am I explaining something?
The next time it happens.
It never happens. That's what I'm trying to show you. It can never happen. Also? No.
It will come up though.
It can. That's what I'm saying. Unless the brain itself, the structure, the whole. So, the brain, please, I'm not a brain specialist. I haven't read the book about brains and so on. But I've watched this movement of brain, which is really part of meditation. I won't go into all that. The brain is conditioned. And is conditioned to go in a certain direction. Change what is into what should be. It's always modifying. And in that modification, it finds security. Because the brain can only function when there is complete safety, properly. So it will find safety in some neurotic belief or saying, I've achieved something, all that. Here, when a brain sees that the danger of a directional movement, it itself stops naturally. It can never go back. Now, does this happen to you?
Are you saying that stop directional movement, but not movement? Are you saying to stop movement altogether?
No, directional movement.
Just direction.
So I can't stop. I won't go into movement. Movement means time. Time means I won't go into all that for the moment.
If that did happen, we wouldn't be here.
No, sir. So two friends are talking over together this question.
But aren't we here because we're seeking something?
It's up to you if you're seeking something and the speaker has nothing to give. Wait. Speaker has nothing to give. But speaker says, let us talk over as two friends. That's completely different. You are used to, not you, sir, particularly, you're used to being given something, told something, what to do. That's the whole function of the priest, the gurus, the authority. To me, all that is absurd. I would deny all that. So I can't give you anything. But I say to you, please, let's talk it over together, which is entirely different. You understand, sir?
Are you saying that if you don't seek anything and you allow the brain basically just to...
No, sir, no, don't go on with it. See, no, it's much more complex than that, sir, please. The brain itself is conditioned. We are taking one small section of the brain, as it were, which is functioning in a direction. That's all. I'm not touching the rest of it. The rest of it we can go into later. The rest of it is fear, pleasure, the whole human structure. So we are asking, it's really very important question. If you once grasp this, that the ending of direction is the complete transformation. That means you will never seek direction, psychologically. Of course, if I want to know how to go to Santa Barbara, I'll ask somebody if there's a direction and so on. But we're not talking on that level. Now I'm asking, if I may ask my friend, I said, look, we have talked about 40 minutes, 30 minutes. Have you really got this? Have you really grasped this? Does it mean anything?
When you say transformation all the time, as opposed to occasionally you will perhaps be at this timeless place, this place where it is seen.
What's that?
Perhaps at one time it is seen, but then as you lose that vision or that
No, sir. Would you, once you realize the rattler, once you have seen the rattler and see the danger of it, would you go back and play with it?
Yeah, but it stops being a rattler for a while. It
No.
turns back into something else again.
You see, that means we haven't really actually seen the danger of a directional movement. That's all. Yes, sir.
Directional movement seems to be inconsistent with nature.
No, sir, please. Look, I explained at the beginning, sir, if you didn't mind, if I repeat it again. We said change and transformation. Don't forget what we started out with. Change implies modified continuity.
Does a caterpillar change?
No, leave the caterpillar, poor thing, it's a marvelous thing, leave it alone. I'm talking of human beings. Human beings think they are changing when actually the change is modification of what is. That's all we are saying. The modification of what is, they consider is change. I say that's not change at all. The ending of what is radical transformation. Look, sir, make it much simpler. One is violent. Human beings are violent by nature, for various reasons I won't go into, from this beginning of the animal to now. We are violent. Now we have a direction, which is to become non-violent. There's been the philosophy of it in India, Tolstoy, Gandhi, you follow the whole mess of all that. Sorry, I consider it mess, you may not. So we are conditioned to a modified change. And I say, when we discuss transformation, how to bring it about, I say, look at these two words first. The word change implies that. The word transformation implies the ending of this movement of change. The ending. Psychologically, not the caterpillar, and so on, so on. Now, after talking over together for 40 minutes, or more or less, my two friends say, please, have we understood each other? Huh?
Verbally we understand.
No, wait. So you have not understood.
I have not understood.
No, wait. So you say, now let's begin again. I have not understood. Why? Look, sir, just careful. Wait. You and I are great friends. I'm your husband or your wife. We're holding hands. You would say, when I tell you something very extraordinary for me, deep, you say, I don't understand. Would you tell her that? Wait, no. What is your relationship first? She's trying to tell you something she feels most profoundly. And you say, sorry, I don't understand. Would you say that?
I would say nothing.
Why?
Because I would...
Wouldn't you have to feel it?
Oh, madam?
Wouldn't you have to feel it?
Feel it. What do you mean by the word feel? You see, I'm very critical of words, sorry, forgive me, which is not avoidance, which is not escape, which is not merely argumentation or avoidance. I'm saying one has to be terribly careful in investigating the usage of words.
Well, if you can't understand it and you can't feel it, then what?
No, which is what? Either you feel with your touch, smell, taste, or you think. Now, when you say, I don't understand, we are saying, is it emotional that makes you understand? A feel that makes you understand? Please, you are not answering my question. After 40 minutes, we are holding hands together. And I said to you, please, listen to what I've got to tell you. It's most tremendously important because it will perhaps change our relationship entirely. And listen to me, pay attention to what I'm saying, and he tells you. And at the end of 40 minutes, he says, sorry, I don't understand what you're talking about. Would you say that to your girlfriend? Huh? You would? I don't know what. Don't jump on me. What kind of relationship have you then? You have no relationship at all, apparently. What's that? What's that?
When I say I don't understand, at that point I do have a relationship.
I can't hear.
At that point, when I say I don't understand, I do have a relationship. There's no love.
That's it, sir. There is not even affection to understand something. If you and I had if you had affection, I have affection for you, and I say, look, for God's sake, don't look at this. And you, because you have affection for me or love for me, and what I say becomes important to you.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. We didn't say
Because we have, so our relationship, sir, we are not friends. I tell you I'm your friend, you say, buzz off. It means nothing to me. And I say, look, please, this is one of the most fundamental things in life that you must understand. And I tell you as a wife, as a husband, as a girlfriend, as a boyfriend, holding your hand, kiss you, everything. I say, look, And you don't even say at the end of 40 minutes, I really don't see what you're talking about. I don't think you say that to your girlfriend. She would leave you next minute.
You wouldn't say it because we wouldn't want to hurt.
So it's not a question of hurt. We have we don't understand what relationship is. Do think about a minute. We don't understand what relationship means. Because I come along and say, look, let us talk as two friends, which implies care, affection, love, consideration, involvement, commitment. And you will sit there and say, you go on talking, but you would never say that to your wife or husband, or girlfriend or boyfriend, because you are involved in it.
Please explain it again.
Huh?
Please explain it again.
I don't agree.
What is it you don't agree with, sir?
If I don't understand someone, I don't care if I love them or not, I'll tell them that I don't understand them. And that may be the end of our relationship, but I have to take that chance.
Therefore, you're not concerned with relationship.
Not as much as I am understanding.
Relationship is the only thing in life.
What is relationship?
I will go into that. What is relationship? It's a very complex question. What is relationship? To be related to somebody. Is it merely a physical attachment, sex and all that? Are you related then? What do you mean by relationship? When you say it's my wife, my girlfriend, boy, husband, whatever it is, my father, what do you mean by those words? What are the significance, the depth of those words? What's up?
Relationship is loving and caring.
But the actual fact, sharing. What do you mean by relationship?
Sharing.
Huh?
Sharing. Relating.
Are you sharing?
Together.
Are you sharing?
Try.
I don't try, so please. You're not serious.
To give your attention to someone who's relating.
To be free of attachment to another.
I'm related to my wife. What does that mean? Facts, not theories, suppositions, and hopes, and what I would like it, but facts, everyday fact.
We share the last name.
We share the bed?
Sometimes.
That's about all.
Oh, the name. You share the name.
So you're not going into it. Huh?
That each is part of each other and that you're part of humanity is relationship.
Oh, they're just theories.
But we don't know relationships.
Please, madam, as somebody says, we really don't know what relationship is.
Relationship is relating to the other as yourself. I see you as myself speaking.
That's just an idea.
No.
Wait. Go into it slowly, madam. You all have conclusions about it. I haven't. I refused conclusions. I refuse, forgive me as a friend, I said, my friend, my lady, please don't come to conclusions. Let's look at it. Let's start as though we don't know about it, right? Then we can learn an infinite lot. But we say, yes, I know. If you start with certainty, you end up in doubt, right? But if you doubt, you'll end up in certainty. But we start the other way. We're all certain. So let's find out, if you're willing. What time is it? 5 to 12. Briefly, you haven't yet solved this problem which we started out with. This always happens. I want to find out deeply with your help, and you want to find out deeply with my help, in exploring what does it mean to change and what does it mean to transformation. We said any form of change is a continued modified continuity, which is the essence of mediocrity. Huh?
Mr. Krishnamurti, what happens if we end direction?
I'm saying,
What happens if we end?
what happens when there is an end?
Are we coming in a vacuum?
Oh no, that just it's you haven't ended it, and therefore you've never found it. You've already come to your conclusion. Do we enter into a vacuum? Is there nothingness? Is it annihilation? You follow? You haven't really answered the question whether you have ended it. Then you will find out something totally different. So I'm asking after an hour, holding your hand, we've been friends, and I really mean it, we have been friends. And you feel probably temporarily, poor chap, let's be friends with him, because he's talking so much about it. And I say, look, we've talked 40 minutes. Have you understood this simple, fundamental fact? Understood in the sense, not intellectually, but it's in your blood, so that you will never again go in any direction.
Is it that we move together when we're talking?
Have you done it, madam?
I think
That means you have ended direction. No, after now. See the importance of it, so for God's sakes. See the importance of it. We want success. That's a direction. Sociologically, politically, religiously, in every way we want to achieve something, become something, gain something. That's a direction. When we conform, imitate, that's a direction. I say that is the very core of mediocrity. That's what we are. Except the present company, you're all mediocre. Which means, can you end direction?
You can end direction when you become established in non-direction. When the mind transcends and finds its own nature, which is pure consciousness, which is non-direction, and to experience non-direction and direction at the same time, then you have solved the problem.
No, you're off the mark. Forgive me, sir, you're off the mark. You haven't even listened. Look, sir, when you go to school, in the school, you are told you must be as clever as A. You are given marks, all directional, you understand? Competitive. which brutalizes people. Children. You've seen the American children. Oh, you're all American, sorry. So, from childhood till you die, be something, become something, achieve something, be a millionaire, become the president, become the governor. You follow? Move out, which is all directional. And if you are religious, you say, well, I must be the right hand of Jesus or God or whatever it is. So you're all trained, conditioned to accept this norm. Somebody comes along, like me, a poor chap, he says, look, just look what you're doing. You haven't the time, you haven't the patience, you won't listen. I said, just look what you're doing. This produces the directional movement, produces violence, hatred. You follow the whole thing, which is modern society. And you say, yes, I understand that. But I don't know how to stop it. Which means you really don't want to stop it. You follow? You want to go on because that's your conditioning. Or you're frightened. Frightened, if you stop, what will happen? Which means you are seeking a reward. When you're frightened, you're seeking. If you don't get your reward, you say, well, so, here we are together as friends, and I really mean it as friends. And I say, please, this is a fundamental thing to understand, the beauty of it. It's really extraordinarily beautiful when you understand. When there is no direction, it is the heavens. So, at the end of an hour, I ask you as a friend, sitting under a tree, holding hands or whatever you will, very close friends. I say, have you really understood this thing? Have you, listen, have you really understood it in your heart, in your blood, in your nerves, in your brain? You captured something. If you have, then you will never again seek direction. That means you never again want to be something. Socially, psychologically.
That cannot be.
There we are.
No. If you know direction, it will always be with you as a shadow. Until the concept is removed, until the concept is gone into the essence, it shall be with you.
What?
Direction or non-direction, it doesn't matter. Would you ask a bird how it flies?
Oh no, so no. This is, you can ask a caterpillar which foot it puts first, and then it stops. If you ask a caterpillar which is the first, whether it puts the first leg, then you'll be paralyzed. You'll be looking at it, it won't move. Please, sir, don't fritter it away, please.
Confirmation or denial. Last night when I was coming up here, someone told me I was a fool, and I was very upset. She said, "You sleep in your car?" Yes, I said I will if I have to, and I did. So I was very upset. So I started to analyze, and then it seemed like it wasn't me, but it must have been me. I saw I was trying to do the impossible.
Madam, that's not what we are discussing.
I wanted her to accept what I do, and she couldn't. So see, the trouble was in my head and not really what she thought. And so that ended.
You see, sir?
That's the same thing you're talking about.
You see what the difficulty at the end of an hour? Each man is going on with his own. So that means You and I have no relationship whatsoever. Which means if you haven't with me, you have no relationship with anybody. Because I'm an ordinary human being. You understand, sir? I'm a human being. If you have no relationship with other human being, how can you have relations with another human being?
Is relationship direction or no direction?
No, sir, no relief. That's a complex question. Perhaps we'll discuss it day after tomorrow. But see what we have done. That we don't care. Right, sir?
When you talk and say you, and I talk and say I, who is
We.
Who is you and I?
No.
What is it?
Sir, when we say you, I'm talking as a human being to another human being, not as I and you. You understand? We're talking as human beings. I explained very carefully that every human being is the total history of mankind. It is a fact. And if you know how to read that book, you don't have to read any other book in the world, because everything is contained in you. Man's misery, confusion, sorrow, death, love, sex, all that is you. You are the world and the world is you. Therefore, there is no you and I when there is that. Please, sir, when I say you, we're talking quickly as en passant. I don't know.
You say in.
Huh?
You say the in direction.
Yes, sir, I said that. Sir, don't you see the end of something is something new? Don't you see, if we go on the same way over and over and over and over again, there is no ending to something. It's only when something ends a new beginning can come. Like if we are satisfied with the piston engine, we'll never have had the jet. Right? The jet came into being when the man said, I know all about pistons, let's stop it. Let's look in other directions. Directions, you know what I mean.
Could you share a moment of silence with us?
Would you stop talking and be quiet for a while together? To be actually quiet, unoccupied mind.